Is your unit rent controlled or not? That's a question that comes up for many Ontario tenants and a critical piece of information if a landlord wants to increase rent.
Rent control makes things stable for you. Usually it limits rent increases to the rate of inflation, but there's a cap. It was introduced by the Liberals a number of years ago. It says that even if inflation is 5 or 6%, a landlord can't increase rent above 2.5%.
This year's rent increase cap is at that maximum of 2.5%. But rent control only applies to units first occupied by anyone, not just the current renter, before November 15, 2018. For any units that came to market after, there is no limit to how much rent can be raised annually. Tenant advocate Jordy Dent says those without rent control can sometimes find themselves in a vulnerable position.
You might have a maintenance issue and your landlord might be not willing to deal with it, and you might pressure them to deal with this maintenance issue, and then the landlord will retaliate with a $1,000 a month rent increase the next time you get a rent increase. Right. We call these economic evictions. We get calls now on this weekly on our tenant hotline from people facing these scenarios.
Dent says even those in rent-controlled units are facing pressure to agree to increases above the provincial limit because landlords are in turn facing mortgage rate increases. But that's not among the legal reasons to increase rent above the 2.5% cap. The Rental Tenancies Act does lay out some exceptions.
Capital work, major capital work, that could be replacing the elevator in a large building, all the balconies. It's not supposed to be for regular maintenance.
For an above guideline increase, the landlord must apply to the Landlord-Tenant Board.
The landlord can, in one application, ask for a 9% rent increase, but the court's going to make that landlord spread that out over 3 years. Okay. So the maximum a landlord can increase your rent above the guideline is 3% a year.
That's in addition to the allowable 2.5%. So the maximum increase a tenant could face this year if the landlord is granted an above guideline increase is 5.5%. Tenants also have the option of fighting the increase by presenting arguments to the LTB.
It does take some work. You do have to do a file review. Sometimes you're going to maybe hire a paralegal or someone to help with that.
Now, coming back to rent control, a few other scenarios where it doesn't apply: if you share a kitchen or bathroom with your landlord, or if you're a roommate paying rent to a leaseholder. For more on rent control exemptions, you can go to our website, citynews.ca. For City News, I'm Dilshad Burman.